All right, this is the week 17 intervention concept. Remember, the idea is watch this video after you've tried the problems. Don't watch the video first, but try the problems first, then watch the video. So this is the idea of applying the equivalency. An equivalency would be the idea of applying fractions and decimals and percentages, the equivalency of all of those. So when we're dealing with problems like this, the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to look at how the answers are formed. Notice, here's an answer in decimals. Here's an answer in fractions, answer with fractions, answer with decimals, which tells us that we need to be thinking about decimals and fractions as well as these percents. So step one is going to be to change our percents, since this is given as a percent and this is given as a percent. We're going to change those percents into decimals and into fractions. The decimal for 12.5%, 12.5%, its decimal would be to move this 2 places to the left. We're dividing by 100. So move it 2 places to the left and write it as a decimal, 0.125. To make that a fraction, we take this new decimal, 0.125, which is 125 thousandths, 125 thousandths, and we simplify it. What goes into 125 and 1,000? Well, we know 25 can go in, so let's start by dividing everything by 25, because 25 can go into 125, and 25 can go into 1,000. Anything that ends in double zero can be divided by 25. So 25 into 125 goes 5 times. 25 into 1,000 goes 40 times. That can be divided by 5. Remember, we're doing giant ones here. When I say divide by 5 or divide by 25, what I'm really doing is creating big ones. And we end up with 1/8. So for 12.5%, we have 0.125, and we have 1/8. We have to do the same thing for our 60 over here. So when we do our 60, and I'll do that right here, we do our 60, we have 60%. This time we don't see a decimal, so we know it's always between the last number and the percent sign. Move it over 2 places. So we get 0.60 and 0.60. We can drop the 0 off. That is 6/10, and 6/10 simplifies to 3/5. So we have 0.6 and we have 3/5 for that 60%. Now we're ready to start matching things up. So Mike has a lawn of 580 square meters and he wants to fertilize 12.5%. The 12.5 then goes with the 580. So here's a 580 with a 0.125. We said that's a way of showing the 12.5. Here's a 580 with 12.5. Note, we don't show things with that point because that's like this percent with just the percent sign dropped off. That's not right. Here's a 1/8 with the 580. That's also correct. That's our fraction version of 12.5%. And then 1 over 12.5 does not work. All right, let's check the second part. So the second part is Paul has 620 that he wants to fertilize 60% of the lawn. So we're going to check and see if those work. So these two that were wrong already, we don't have to check those again. Those are still wrong. Let's just see if these work. 0.6, 0.6 with the 620, that works. And 3/5, 3/5 with the 620, yep, that works. And we know that the correct answers on this problem are A and C. That's part one. Part two is, what's the total amount of lawn that will be fertilized? And the easiest one to work with is right here. Easiest one to work with is the one that's already in a decimal form. So we're going to have 0.125 times 580 plus, we're going to have 0.6 times 620. Let me bring my calculator down here because we use real tools for real jobs. So 0.125 times 580 is equal to 72.5 plus, let's clear that out, 0.6 times 620 is 372. Add that to the 72.5, and we get 444.5 square meters that they're going to have to fertilize. So here is our final answer. All right, so now what you should do, you should check your work on this one. If you got it right, fantastic. Move to the bottom, check your work on it. If you didn't get this right, review the video, figure out what you did wrong, and then rework the bottom problem before you check the answer. Okay, so you've had a chance now to do this bottom problem, and maybe you had to rework it because you made a mistake on the top. That's okay. Remember, we'd rather take our time to do it well than do it fast and have it wrong. So once again, we're going to start by looking at the fractions and looking at the decimals for these particular problems. And we are ready to look at the second problem then. So we're going to do the same thing. Like I said, we're going to go through, and we know that for 20%, we're going to put a decimal here. It's between, if we don't see it, it's right before the percent sign. We're going to move it over 2 places because we are dividing by 100. That's why it's moving. And we end up with 0.2. Now, you might say, well, wait a minute. When I moved it over, I got 0.20. Yes, but this zero is not a placeholder. If you want to keep it, you can keep it, but you don't need it. And then the nice thing about this particular one, that's 2/10. So we've got 2/10, and that is equal to 1/5. So our decimal is 0.2, and our fraction is 1/5. For the 50%, right there, our decimal is 0.5, and our fraction is 1/2. And now we're ready to match things up. So we're matching that. Now you'll notice I didn't even read you the story. I probably should read you the story, but it doesn't matter who the people are, Bill and Kathy. It doesn't matter what they're making. They're making a model for a science class. What matters is that we've got 390 square centimeters, and she wants 20% of it green. Wouldn't matter if she wanted 20% of it blue, or 20% of it pink, or 20% of it chartreuse, which I'm not even sure what that is. It's some kind of a green. It doesn't matter. What matters is you've got 390 square centimeters, and you want to change 20%. For Bill's model, he has a surface area of 210 square centimeters, and he wants to paint 50% of it green. He wants to change 50%. So we start matching those up. I'm going to do it a little differently than I did last time. The 390. So there's the 390. And there's the 390. And there's the 390. And there's the 390. Let's see how many places that 390 matches up with either 0.2 or with 1/5. Well, it matches up with 0.2 right there. Matches up with 1/5 right there. 390 with 1/2. Nope. That's supposed to be with the 210. See, it says 210 with the 50%, which is 1/2. And 390 with 20. They just dropped the percent sign. You can't do that. That's not mathematically sound. We go back, we do the same thing. The 210 has to match up with either 50%, 0.5, or 1/2. 210, I'm looking for these now. 210 right there, 210, 210, and 210. So 210 with the 0.5, that works. 210 with 1/5, nope, the 1/5 is supposed to be with the 390. Oh, wait a minute. Like we said last time, that one's already wrong. If it's wrong at all, it's totally wrong. That one's wrong a little bit. You have to be totally right to be right. You only have to be a little wrong to be totally wrong. So that leaves us with C, 1/2 with the 210, 210 with the 1/2. Yes, that works. And we have our correct answers, A and C. Now, who will paint the most? Anytime you see something like who will paint the most, that is a difference problem. That's a subtraction problem. It'd be like if you and your friend are standing around and somebody says, hey, of you two, who has the most money? Well, you wouldn't add it together. You'd pull your money out of your pocket. Your friend would take her money out of her pocket. And then you'd check it out and you'd say, oh, I've got $5. She only has $2. I have the most. So you can see all these are subtraction problems. We're going to bring this one down. It's the one already in decimal form. And we're going to have 0.2 times 390 minus, and by the way, that's Katie, minus 0.5 times 210, and that is Bill. All right, calculator out. You should be using a calculator when you do these, real tools for real problems. 0.2 times 390 is equal to 78. So Katie has 78 square centimeters minus 0.5 times 210 equals 105 square centimeters. Now you might say, well, wait a minute. If I do 78 minus 105, I get negative 27. We can't have negative 27. You can't paint a negative amount. No, you can't. But remember, your question is just who will paint the most. So if Katie's painting 78 and Bill's painting 105, you know that this is the most. If somebody said how much more will Bill paint, you'd say 27. You wouldn't say negative 27. But the question is who's going to paint the most? And in this case, the answer is Bill paints the most. All right, so now you have your work for 17-1. Review that. If you didn't get those right, if you're still struggling a bit with this idea, come talk to me. We'll go back and find some more for you to review. Watch the video again before you come and talk to me. Remember, part of the idea here is to help you become as self-sufficient as possible. All right. If you have questions, don't hesitate to ask.